Today, you will hear from these three amazing companies. The first one is Hearne Group, an Australian fintech company that provides a range of payment solutions for consumers to help them buy what they want, where they want, when they want. The second is Flight Centre, the world's largest travel agency. And the last one is RMIT Online, a global university of technology, design, and enterprise, one of the world leaders for education. We are very excited to share with you their learning in the journey to improve the customer experience. This event is co-organized with our partners, Tilium, Full Story, and Delacon, best-in-class solution providers to improve your customer experience. Before leaving the stage to the first panel of the day, I'd like to remind everyone of the importance of customer experience nowadays. So I'm going to set the stage with a few stats on it. The most important fact is that 97% of digital traffic does not convert, and this is a huge loss. But as well, it's a great space where there's a lot of room for improvement. This loss of conversion is mainly due to two things. As you can see here, 78% of customers have abandoned their journey due to bad customer experience. And even worse, 91% will walk away from a company permanently after a bad experience. So if we take a step back and define what is customer experience, it's actually the sum of brand interaction that define your customer's perception and opinion of your brand or product. And I know that this is really broad. It's not just a mobile or website. It's the billboard you see when you're driving, it's the radio ad, it's the digital banner, it's when you pick up the phone and you call your customer support. And yes, of course, your website or mobile app. And when all of these interact together, it leaves an impression on the customer, and that will be your customer experience. And this is very interesting because as you can see here, 84% of the consumers say that the experience the company provides is as important as its product and services. And this is kind of mind-blowing, considering the huge investments companies are doing on their products and services. 73% also say that having one rare, delightful experience will change the expectation from all other companies. And in my case, I can totally relate to this. While experiencing Netflix Premium for the first time and being able to binge watch without any commercials, I was immediately frustrated while watching TV and getting ads. And so I was expecting the exact same experience with Disney Plus or Amazon Prime. So when we speak about customer experience, we have to think broadly and holistically. But how do you connect all these dots to be a successful organization? This is what we're going to see today. And you know, it all starts with experimentation. And today, successful organizations are prioritizing experimentation twice as much. And of course, we know that personalization is extremely important, but the road to success there is with experimentation. The only way you can keep your finger on the pulse to understand your customer and what's resonating with them is by doing experimentation. And it's not just about running experiments and being happy about the fact that you run them, but doing something about those experiments. Like failing or not having a winning variation is just as important as finding those winners. Also, whoever gets closer to the customer wins. We've seen the example with blockbusters, thought they were in the movie industry, while Netflix understood they were in the customer experience industry. And the same thing happened with Hilton Hotel versus NBRB, or Yellow Cab versus Uber. The last one here is around deployments. And being able to deploy more frequently is becoming more and more critical. And it goes behind being a software company or being agile. It's about deploying safely, as of course your customer experience is being impacted while deploying new things on your channels. So now that we set the stage and talk about all the dots that needs to be connected, I'd like to open for the first panel of the day. Today, I will welcome Edouard Descamps, who is leading customer success team in the region at AB Tasty. I will welcome Kate Murray, who is leading the regional office at Full Story, and Alan Yeo, head of innovation delivery at Hearne Group, to discover how his company is pairing experimentation with in-depth analytics on the user experience. You will dive deeper into the concept of data-driven experimentation across the entire omnichannel strategy. So Edouard, Kate, and Alan, welcome on stage.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, all good. Thank you, Simon. I do want to call out, as you can all see, this is not a Zoom background. I'm actually on leave and was so excited about joining this conversation. My Airbnb didn't have internet, so talking about customer experience. So you're getting me from my car, which I'm super excited about. We're on the fly.
Extremely agile, Kate. But thanks for joining this one. And we can see that Alan is there. Hey, Alan, how are you?
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thank you, Simon, for this introduction. Super clear. And again, thank you, Kate and Alan, for taking the time to share to our people here. We have a lot of people in the call right now, so it's really cool. So we'd like to give a spot to you, Alan, at least to start with. First, Alan, tell me if I'm wrong, but I've seen this morning that you guys have published some amazing numbers on the Australian Stock Exchange. I've seen like plus 38% on annualized basis of payments in health and well-being. So great numbers. It looks like you guys are doing pretty good at the moment. So I'd like to hear a bit more from you, Alan. Like, could you let us know what you've been focusing on recently?
Okay, so yeah, firstly, thanks for sort of the snapshot of the good news. I didn't even realize, I haven't looked at the stock price today, but the market's been sort of a bit of up and down lately. But basically, I'll give everyone sort of a high level view of Humm Group, and then sort of hone in into specifically what I've been quite focused on over the last year or so. So Humm Group, we're sort of spread geographically across Trans-Tasman, so large presence in Australia and New Zealand, and we've also got a European presence, so a satellite office out in Ireland. And really, it started off as an Australian and New Zealand-based company, but we're now sort of looking at setting our sights further. So the Irish office is really a launch pad into Europe. And you're also seeing that we're starting to, we've got some nice announcements and partnerships about entering the North American market as well in Canada. Your stats that you mentioned is actually the Humm, I guess, flagship product. So that's what I term kind of your traditional buy now, pay later style product.
Yeah.
And what that is it's kind of similar if anyone's ever used Zip or Afterpay. Humm is quite similar to that. In fact, Humm kind of evolved from an older style product called EasyPay. So that's been around for nearly 20 years. And it started off with really large ticket items. So I think what Afterpay and Zip saw was an opportunity in the market for really small ticket items. And credit to them, they've done a phenomenal job of making buy now, pay later extremely relevant, and it's now a very legitimate payment type. Certainly in Australia, everyone gets it. And I think last time I checked, there's about 30 listed buy now, pay later companies on the stock exchange. So it's quite crazy and frothy right now. But really, it's kind of taking an all-style concept, spotting an opportunity in the market, and then running with it. So they've really kind of expanded on the digital experience, and also looking at the smaller ticket sizes and faster transactions. So that's kind of Humm. And when I first joined Humm Group, that was the key project that I worked on. We sort of took two old products. OxyPay was kind of trying to compete with Afterpay and Zip, but late in the market. And we had EasyPay, which is your largest style, up to $30,000, what people use for buying, solar panels and large home renovations and all that sort of stuff. We sort of, mashed them together in a brand new product construct, made some tweaks. And our calculus was, you can't, it's pretty hard to compete with the behemoths like the Afterpay with just a Me Too kind of proposition. Mm-hmm. So, our sort of strategy there was to say, look, we wanted to kind of do that, but also, expand on our core strength, use the smaller ticket sizes to draw new audiences in, and then, upsell them into the larger ticket items, and vice versa. We've got a big loyal customer base of the big ticket items, and then cross-selling them down into the smaller, more frequent spend. So that's Hum, and that's kind of the stats that you mentioned today. So it was an update on Hum. Separately, we've said, look, what's in buy now, pay later, and what's the next evolution of it, and that's for those who've never heard of it, we've got another flagship product called Bundle, which is about 12 months in market now. We launched about a couple of weeks before lockdown, so pretty perfect timing for that. But it's gone pretty well. So it's starting to grow quite rapidly, and the growth, the transaction volumes, and everything, has been growing, phenomenally. What I've been working on is what is Hum Pro, and what that is it's a kind of buy now, pay later style solution, but specifically for the business market. So small business to SME, and that's quite a nascent segment within the market. So consumer, everyone gets it, and there's now different variations of it. You would have seen Afterpay has now got not just variation of the actual concept, but payment modes and everything. So going from closed loop into kind of open loop rails and all that sort of stuff, that's evolving really rapidly. The small business sector is still quite new. There's only quite a few small players. So we see that as a natural extension for us to evolve from the consumer side of things and then into small business. So Hum Pro, started about 12 months ago. We started dev work again just as COVID started. So the entire project was developed with people across Australia, New Zealand, Morocco, Europe, and so we've live in. It was actually surprisingly, and I'm sure everyone on the call would, we've just learned to adapt to life, working remotely and working from home, and I think it works surprisingly well. And so it's probably certainly within Hum Group, the first project that everything was kind of built completely remotely from people just working in teams on Teams. But I'm sure a lot of people on the call would be the same. So personally, I think it's worked quite well, and I think this new way of working is going to last some time still.
And so you've been launching a bunch of products since you started at Hum. So Bundle, the classic Hum, and Hum Pro recently. You've been able to launch some products when COVID was not there. You've launched new products with COVID. Ideally, what's for you working in innovation delivery? What's an ideal product launch? Like if you launch a new product, what's the best way to handle this? Which metrics are you following?
Yep. I guess, in a utopian world, everything goes to plan and then plus, so and then some. So I guess, something like Hum Pro, it's a brand new concept and everything. So the construct's quite new. So when I say buy now, pay later, that's the general category. But some of the things, there's no other product out there that does that in the market. So, and also the tech stack was all completely new. So we built everything from the ground up in terms of a lot of the integration layers and all of that. So I guess a perfect product launch, the usual things, everything goes according to plan in terms of budget, time, timings, and meeting your key milestones. And then when you do launch, making sure that, your kind of business case, everything goes to plan and then exceeding it. So things like, customer acquisition volumes, et cetera, all of that, meeting the mark. So, I'd say the project was hard, COVID and all that notwithstanding, but as with all projects, I'm sure all guys know, you've got a scope, then you've got to start making trade-offs, trading off scope to meet timelines and budgets. You've got launch dates that you want to meet. We actually, with COVID, we actually midway through it even considered a drastic pivot. So firstly, everyone was shell-shocked So, I'm sure a lot of people will identify to it. In the early days, it was so uncertain what was going to happen. So, questions like, do we even have enough money internally in the company to extend? Is this a critical project that we know, we don't know what the next 3 months holds, let alone the next 6 months? Do we need to conserve cash and all that? So, there was things like, what are the projects that need to go on pause? Or what do we kill? All those sort of things. So we went through that cycle, and lots of planning with the executive team and the board, lots of discussions on, and not just Humpro, but all projects were on review. And then even within the project, what does the product actually look like, and is this the right product for a COVID world or a post-COVID world with businesses stretched and all that? So we even looked at different product pivots. We were considering turning it from a buy now pay later payment style product to just your vanilla cash loans. Businesses might need cash, so we explored all those things. But I'm quite pleased that we actually, and we did a lot of market testing, so not digital testing, but actually interviewing financial brokers and all that, testing what do they think the market's going to be like in the next 3-6 months. What should we do? And we got some pretty good feedback. And then we decided to stick to our guns, and this, and thankfully things kind of started improving, and we're actually launching into a good time. So we're coming. Well, I wouldn't say we're, we are starting, the green shoots of a recovery. I think, everywhere, and certainly in Australia, vaccines are coming through. So things are on the up, and then I think businesses are now, businesses are now trying to work their way into a recovery. So, it's a sort of right product for the right time to help them power that, the recovery for the overall economy, really.
Yeah, no, though I definitely rely on that. We've had a hard couple of months at the beginning where we needed to adapt and reorganize ourselves, and obviously it was difficult for some clients. So at that time we needed to take a step back and reorganize. But just like you said at the end, it looks like it's picking up again, and some businesses have definitely needs for what we do. So yeah, I'm glad that on your side you're also sharing the same positive kind of things. Well, that's impressive, Alan, and I'm sure it requires a good organization and great people as well. So thanks for sharing this. So diving into our main topic of the day, which is focusing on insights and experimentation. At ABTST, we always preach for this continuous process, starting from insights to testing and iteration, and make business decision based on the data we collect. And the insights part of it is absolutely key. We stand for that as well. And there are, I think, so many different points today to identify so many data points to identify pain points, issues, and full story. I will say is really amazing for that. So I mean that because I had the pleasure and the chance to use it, and it's just an insane resource of insights. So Kate, circling back to the main topic of the day, could you start by explaining how is customer experience analytics different from product analytics?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alan, just to go full circle there, we can obviously tell things don't go to plan. I'm currently doing this webinar from my car, so I'm glad you guys were able to pivot. So the difference between product analytics and customer experience analytics, which is this new category coming up really on the heels of customer data platforms, the key difference that I really feel at clients is the captural methodology. So through the piece of lightweight JavaScript or the SDK on native, we capture everything at the element level or the DOM level, meaning gone are the days of having to tag every single element. And why that's so impactful, particularly for gaining qualitative insights at scale to fuel ideas and hypotheses of experimentation, you actually are able to see through the lens of a customer exactly how they feel and what they're seeing, both at scale, so an aggregate view, and both a one-to-one view, obviously, to a session replay. So some of those capability pieces from our side of things are the key difference between product analytics and customer experience analytics.
And how, on your side, Kate, how have you seen clients leverage qualitative data in order for them to start their CRO programs? Or not to start, actually, within their CRO programs, sorry.
Yeah, it's a really good question. We see clients at all different ends of the spectrum from the maturity curve. Some that are just dipping their toe into CRO in a very light sense. They've got a light team. The C-suite isn't educated on what CRO is in some cases, and they're just wanting to gain some understanding of what to test on. So in some cases, it's fueling hypotheses in a data-driven sense. Interviews are a huge part of this. Full story wanting to be that data-driven aggregate piece to think of ideas of what to test on. The other end of the spectrum of teams that are a little bit more mature, maybe have had CRO programs matured up to a tool best of breed like A/B testing, is going to be using qualitative insights to validate why a variation won, not just understand what variation won. So it's really the contextual piece to start to create a flywheel around your CRO program, have a true understanding to both feedback to the business of what was the reason why this variation won, and more importantly, actually share the session replay to qualify to the rest of the business and bring them on the education journey of what CRO is all about.
And thanks, Kate. And once we have all of these insights and we've run all these interviews and we're able to share this to the business, back to you, Alan. How much do you think feature testing and personalization can have a powerful business impact?
I think absolutely crucial. I think as a product manager, product managers like to think that they know everything and they've got a good intuition and feel about their product, and also more importantly customers. And yes, I mean, generally you need to know that. You need to have a good sense and good intuition about what customers want and what they do. But I think you'd be quite foolish and in a sense conceited even to think that you know everything, and it's just all based on gut feel. You need to support intuition with data, and then not only that, you need to have unbiased data as well. So data on itself is it's good. But sometimes you can almost, influence, like people will say, torture data or set the experiment up in a certain way, you'll get the answers that you want, right? So, I think really, mature, or at least people who are wanting to do it right way, know that it's not a one or the other thing. It's kind of a combination of having good various inputs to your decision making, from what sort of features or things to prioritize or develop, or how to go along a certain process. So that's the kind of experimentation piece. And then I think and certainly today there's a lot of tools, like data's everywhere. There's always a new way of collecting data. It's about collecting them and also making sense of it, I think, is really important as well. And then moving on to the personalization piece as well, that's equally important as well. So if you look at a product like, all our products actually, so Hearne Pro that I've just worked on, but any kind of mass scale product, we're a kind of a generalized payment product. So even though we say, it's for small business, but it really, it's not specifically niche. So it supports all kinds of industries, all kinds of business types. So really, your personalization gives you the ability, I guess, to go broad, but also make the customer feel narrow or special, and that's an art form. And so that's really beneficial to businesses, digital businesses today, because what it lets you do is, you can have as broad an audience as possible, but you can actually tailor the experience to the customer so that you're talking very specifically to them. And then that can manifest in lots of ways. Like if you think about Hearne Pro, I'll give you an example. We've got lots of different business industry types. We've got it hasn't launched yet, but we're about to launch a marketplace within the app. And what that does is it connects the businesses to online suppliers, so they can purchase online, etc., and we autofill the Hearne Pro payment facility in the card. So personalization would mean, hey, if we know you're a tradie, then don't show you health services or those sort of things. And specifically, if we know you're a tradie and you tend to purchase things in related to carpentry, then you tend to have those kinds of things surface in your top picks, I guess, within the marketplace and all that sort of stuff. Now, if we can master those sort of things, then you can definitely increase the customer experience, and and also that translates to real business value, right? So you're going to draw engagement. So your business customer might go in, who's the carpenter, might go, every time I fire up the app and I go in there, it's always giving me, and I'm now starting to discover new supplies, etc., etc. So that increases engagement, and that's kind of like the flywheel effect that Kate talks about. So we know this at Hearne Group. I'd say we are quite young in the journey. I've been there for a couple of years, but don't even have the tooling. I think we've got people, starting people with the knowledge, and it's certainly very well supported, from the exec and the board. They don't necessarily get it, but they know that this is the future, and they've got people who know what they're doing. So now it's about kind of bringing down that maturity all through the products and the people. Hearne Pro is good in that it's quite new, so we've got all new kits and all that. We've already got things like flagship. We are even talking about planning. So brand new product launch, it's all about customer growth, right? So and nobody knows the product. Even Hearne Group, we only just rebranded. It was Flexi Group about 3-4 months ago. So even that brand is not really strong. So we're thinking about on the A/B testing side, how do we reach and connect even different marketing messages, and doing proper blind or A/B or multi variable kind of testing, even things like ads and all that, or how to lead customers from top of funnel through the funnel. Do we do a lead qualifier question at the top? Will that create friction versus, or do you trade that off for less customers being disappointed if they get midway through and find out they don't qualify? So the tools like Flagship and A/B Testing are the perfect kind of tools to help support and answer those questions in an unbiased and independent way.
And I'm glad you gave your opinion also on personalization, because we always give our definition as a software company, or what's a perfect personalization scenario. But it's interesting to have your take on that from the brand perspective. Okay, Kate, brands like Hearne who have dived into experimentation need to educate the wider business on conversion rate optimization before working with company like A/B Testing, for example. Can you please speak on how Full Story can help support this process?
Yeah, I think even taking a step back from just talking about Full Story, I think to Alan's point, it's equipping with data points that either demyth or like support gut feel. So you'll always have an inkling about an idea. How can we provide data in an intuitive way to allow you to share that across the business to say this is the exact direction we're going in? Or is it, it's not quite what we thought, let's take a step back and revisit that. So I think the category of customer experience, this new phenomenon that's coming up as an evolution on top of both the CDP and product analytics, is really been because there's a disconnect with product teams having all of the data at their fingertips in a really malleable, flexible way that they can just check a hypothesis. I mean, even looking at in Adobe Analytics or in GA, building a watched element, thinking about a checkout flow or a sign-up flow to become a Hearne customer, how can I quickly, as a product manager, understand how many people saw invalid email address or doesn't have an account, and answer that question to fuel ideas and creative mindsets and workshops around how could we improve that, and just allowing data to start there. So it's a bit of a roundabout answer, but I think it's really about having a customer-centric lens to support either your hypothesis or build them, and then in a really intuitive, flexible way, share those learnings, whether it's in session replay or just as yet another data point in a business case.
Super clear, super clear. And once we have that, and once we have this solid hypothesis, then after that we're supposed to be able to test them. I totally agree on that. And that's why also I love your solution, but it's also a great challenge we definitely have to tackle on a daily basis at A/B Tasty, because yeah, like it's not only about having the insights, but being able to regroup them, show them in the perfect way to management, so that they perfectly understand where we're going and build some solid hypotheses on top of that is definitely key.
Yeah, just to add on there, I think like the modern CRO tech stack will look like a experimentation platform, obviously being the shining North Star, but bookended by customer experience analytics, because that flywheel motion, that's exactly how we're going to be able to fuel hypotheses, validate them, and keep moving.
Agree on that, Kate. Thanks for sharing. Alan, I'd like to go back to you and just to know, like, you've shared a lot of things and projects you've been working on, but can you tell us a bit more about what will be your area of focus in the coming months when it comes to feature management and experimentations? We've discussed about like controlling the flows using flagship or new features launch. You've talked about the marketplace. What will be the next hot topics for you?
Yeah, so our primary or singular focus at the moment is growth. So we're now launched. There's always going to be a pipeline of features and all of that, but I'd say my number one priority is customer acquisition, and that even trumps if I say the order of it, it's all about growing customer numbers and just making sure that they're engaged, so they're using, so you want customers to be activated pretty soon, and then also using your product. And then after that, as you start building scale into the portfolio, then it's about kind of the virtuous cycle of making them increasing frequency engagement of use. So and then moving on to all your adjacencies. So increasing average transaction values, increasing the repeat number of transactions per month, all those sort of things. But in the short term, it's all about growth. And the way we do it is several ways. So there's obviously marketing is a critical component right now, especially when you're fledgling brand and product. Nobody really, we're not a CBA or whatever, or NAB, known for business banking. So we really need to build that kind of audience and acquire customers. So there's a digital marketing component. Within that, we're starting to consider things like, okay, tailoring, and using experimentation and data, everything from different kinds of ads or themes and all that sort of stuff for people, and even to using tools where you can who they are once they come in, and using like lookalike audiences and all that to then go, oh, I know you're a carpenter, so this is the kind of style, and within that you can have variations of the sort of ads or experiences that you see. Doing so that's the marketing piece. There's also making sure that the things, your funnel is optimized. So looking at all the application funnel triggers, so people dropping off, and everything from so those of you who are in the lending or fintech style industries, you'll know about the benefits of using bank statement scraping and bank feeds and all that. Really good for decision making, quite difficult from a customer friction point of view. So looking at more creative ways to kind of test that and try to help customers through that journey, whether it's both offline, online. So you get stuck, different ways to kind of give them that surety that that and why we're doing it. There's also things, so we've got various security tools within the app. We actually use flagship and various rules to then trigger various outcomes. So we've got, you know, ID scanning, face scanning, and biometrics all enabled within the application flow. We know that that causes quite a bit of customer friction, but then it's a good deterrent for fraud. So I'd say for that particular one, you know, we haven't fully flicked it all on and start experimenting. I think once the portfolio gets a little bit mature, that's when we start going in that. We've had a lot of people try us on, and as anyone who knows or has launched a new kind of payment style product, the very first customers you get, they're all fraudsters. So, you know, thankfully, you know, we've been managing that extremely well. But that's kind of the sort of things that you gotta consider as well. So, you know, it's kind of a lot of those type of things. Like I said, you know, the marketplaces, you know, that's another way to grow audience engagement. We want to, you know, test out how useful that is in, you know, in kind of keeping people engaged. That's not fully live yet. Still need to make sure we've got a reasonable curation of merchants and stuff within that, but we're hoping to launch that pretty soon. So within the next sort of 2 to 4 weeks. So yeah, so anything that is helping drive customer growth, you know, that's my main focus for the next few months at least.
Okay, cool, sweet. Thank you for sharing these, Alan. Pretty intense and pretty intense coming weeks and months. Simon is telling me that we need to start looking at the questions or to jump in the other session that we will have. I'm just taking a quick look, guys. There's one question on value proposition and how to educate the customers about it. From Kadam, if you can maybe a little bit elaborate on this one, so that we will probably be able to answer, because I'm not so sure. I mean, value proposition can have different, I mean, it can rely on different topics. So if you can maybe elaborate a little bit more on this one, I will probably be able to take these questions right after or during the next session. If you guys are on the call have a specific questions to Alan or to Kate or just to me, go for it. We have 1 or 2 minutes. Otherwise, we'll have Eileen who will take over. I'm just waiting a few seconds, but apart from that, otherwise, if there's no question, Alan or Kate, is there anything else you wanted to share today, or you guys are all good?
I'm all good. Thanks for the chat and the opportunity. Hopefully that was informative.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much.
It was, and thanks a lot to you, Kate, for this for this session. It's hard, but it's been well. So thank you very much, you two guys, for joining this session, for sharing all of these insights. It was really good, and I let Eileen take over on this session. Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Alan, for all the insights. I think it's important to understand that product strategy goes around experimentation and how the insights that is gathered from the experimentation actually help to personalize your product and improve the customer experience for clients. So my name is Eileen. So I head the partnership ecosystem for AB Tasty in APAC. And today we are grateful to have our partners showcase their success stories with their clients. So the next sessions will continue on the topic of customer experience within Omnichannel, the challenges and victories. Let's welcome on stage Clinton Hearne, for the head of marketing at Flight Center, and Sandra, the head of channel partnership from our partner Delacon. So over to you, Sandra and Clinton.
Thanks, Eileen. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, this afternoon. Welcome to Clinton for joining us today. We've had, a bit like Kate, she's actually in her car presenting today. Clinton's been flooded out this week, so we've had a few challenges. He's actually on mobile. But as we say, we're all very agile nowadays. So a little intro on Clinton, a bit of background. He's head of marketing for the Flight Centre Travel Group. He's been in marketing for 9 years, so very experienced. And he leads into a lot of change and challenges of which every marketer has experienced over the last 12 months. So he believes that marketing is a fine balance of data, but also that kind of creative initiative as well. So it's blending those two together. And the old fundamentals still apply. So obviously, you know, we're talking about a lot of new technologies and everything nowadays, but the old fundamentals still applies, and it's just putting that like modern twist onto it. So Clinton's known for cultivating some really passionate teams and some fun teams. And his love of music is paramount. But his favourite rebuttal to any no's is, well, they put the man on the moon. So he's a go-getter and he gets stuff done.
That's very nice, Sandra. Thank you.
So Clinton and I worked together for about 3 years now when Flight Centre engaged Delacon to track, measure and report the attribution of media and sources, like channel sources, which generated phone calls from customers via their main website. So more recently, we've expanded those services to assist with the customer experience and the journey of customers. We'll find out a bit more about that later. So in context for today, Flight Centre is really, you know, a much loved travel brand for everyone from Australia. You will know Flight Centre, and I'm sure most of us have booked some kind of travel with them over the years. But exactly 12 months ago, Flight Centre and the rest of the travel industry was thrown into absolute chaos, and that day was like spinning out of control. So welcome to COVID-19. What did that mean for customer experience with Flight Centre, and how did it change overnight? So before we get into that, we'll hand over to Clinton. And Clinton, if you can kind of explain to us the multi-channel structure for marketing and customer experience for Flight Centre.
Yeah, so if I start, thanks, Sandra. If I start pre-COVID, we're a traditional business. We've been around for about 40 years in Australia in particular. And with that, we're primarily retail stores. So we had about 850 to 1,000 retail stores across Australia. And then about 7 years ago, we started to play in the e-commerce space, which is probably a little bit late to the party. And I guess where we were sort of failing in that customer experience sort of area was if you walked into one of our stores and gave all your details over, and then you came back 3 months later or went to a different store, we actually didn't know you at all. We would ask you all the same questions: your name, date of birth, your favorite seat, your meal options, frequent flyers, and never did we connect the two, regardless if you were high value and had spent tens of thousands of dollars with us, or if you were someone just coming in to change your booking, but we're just, you know, at a new shopping center. So I guess that's where we come from and started.
So obviously with COVID, you know, it's thrown a lot of challenges your way. So how's that kind of channel mix working now, and how are you managing the customer experience across that?
Yeah, it's sort of been a good opportunity for us to really look at what's happening with our customer experience and where we need to play. So we know customers want to deal with us in store and online, which we were already playing in, but then over the phone and call centers needed to be a focus. Plus, some customers just want us to come to their house or meet at a coffee shop. So we wanted the customers to have a great experience from us, so we started to roll that out. Because regardless of what a customer wanted to do, be it a transactional holiday, an off-the-shelf holiday, or really bespoke, we needed to be able to cater for that, especially as a mass market brand. So with this in mind, customer routing was extremely important for us, and to give a better experience to our customers in the end, which will actually result, if we put them in the right channel, if we're routing correctly, to a higher conversion rate and also a lower cost to serve. So it will cost us less to do that if we put them in the right area. We're just on the initial sort of program there, but what it sort of means to us and what's enabled this has been the rollout of call centers onshore and offshore for dedicated products. So they're more specialized teams that deal with you in a couple of those areas, and an independent contractor model, which pretty means that independent travel consultants come under the Flight Centre banner, and however they want to deal with their customers, wherever they want to deal with their customers, we allow that. and enable that, be it, store, the coffee shop, and they'll come to your house at 8 o'clock at night if that makes it right. So we've really taken this opportunity to expand that greatly to be a better service for our customers.
It sounds like you've had a pretty busy year, obviously, getting across all those different channels and trying to, manage the customer experience and collecting the data and all that. So, what does it look like now? And what are you working on, for the future, like around this whole customer experience? How are you tracking and measuring everything?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of different ways that we are tracking. We had a pretty big fundamental rollout of our phone calls and phone analytics that we've been using yourselves, Delacon, with. And that's primarily about 80% of our measurable inquiry comes through phones, and we were doing very limited tracking on that other than knowing what channel they were coming from. But we couldn't see that journey all the way through, and we didn't cover off all phone calls. So it was definitely a missed opportunity for us to do that. Local store numbers, for example, in Google My Business, of those 80% of calls, which, it's about 50,000 calls per month, about 35,000 of them we weren't even tracking or didn't know anything about. So there's been quite a big piece on tagging, analytics, and getting set up with the right partners to make sure that we're enable that. And because of that, and understanding what a customer wants to do, we can tell if we're getting new customers, if they're returning customers, are they calling us about refunds or requesting a credit? And because of that, and because of those sort of insights that we can grab from those areas, it lets us to funnel our resources, being it people or the bottom dollar, into the areas that need it most, not just from a marketing point of view, but from our product management streams, from our people side, and which call centers that we need to, sort of upstaff or move. So I guess that's probably been the biggest change.
And obviously you had to pivot really, really quickly. So how did you get the speed of this out? Like, how did it change the organisation, like the speed to, improve these customer experiences and use new technologies, etc.?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest one would have been that we sell about 2 million holidays per year within Australia. And overnight, literally 19th of March 2020, which is cemented into my brain, we moved from a business that sold holidays to a business that cancelled, refunded, and had to start to put in credits for customers. Now, to be truthful, we weren't set up for that at all. We'd never seen anything like it, like no one had. And so our customer experience was abysmal. It literally wasn't there. The ongoing customer sentiment had really dropped and really become negative. So we leaned on partners, yourselves for that analytics piece that I was just speaking about before, but also the likes of Salesforce, who's our marketing automation platform, and going, what else can we do? What else is out there? And how do we get this up really quickly? So Salesforce came to the party, which was lucky, and introduced Salesforce Service Cloud, which literally allowed us to track refunds, enter them to a centralized database, and also allow our customers our consultants or call center teams, literally anyone in the business, to be able to pick up a call from a customer and go, cool, this is where your refund's at, this is where your credit's at, and this is how you use it. Now that sort of changed to roll out to around 5,000 staff, implemented a new technology or a new platform. To be kind, would have taken us about 6 to 12 months, and we did this within 2.5 weeks. So it was a huge change, but something that needed to happen. And obviously that customer experience then just increased positively tenfold.
Awesome. So, I mean, it's an incredible amount of work, and I obviously know that enterprises, to try and move swiftly is like a big challenge. So you guys, should be enormously proud of yourselves over the last 12 months. What does the next 12 months look like to continue improvement on that customer experience across all channels and all your technologies?
Yeah, definitely. I think we will continue to invest in routing and allowing our customers, I guess, really to be able to self-service where they need to, or get them a little bit further down the funnel before they intersect with a person, if that's what they want to do. So we're rolling out a global knowledge hub and chatbot with human handoff, really AI specific, and looking at support to start with, but then we'll also include sales, so that way we can obviously improve e-com conversion. The first version of that will be finalized this year, and then we'll further roll out to other channels. So that'll be on our website, but then we'll start to do that on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and wherever else a customer wants to deal with us. We're investing in our consultant system, so it'd be surprising, but we don't have a CRM system, so we're rolling out a CRM system. A bit late to the party there, but we got there. And other sort of tools that enable our consultants, so we call it consultant enhancements, to be able to remove those admin duties, because we did have a lot of legacy systems, and a lot of time was spent. It was about 2.5 hours per consultant per day on admin, rather than being able to provide a greater customer experience. And that's happening now. Marketing automation. I'm very passionate about this, and I heard before they were talking about personalization, but we have tools. Tech has finally caught up, and marketers, if they use it right, can actually start to use this extremely well, obviously through email and based off customers' actions on site or in store when they've transacted. But also we're starting to look at how do we use those analytics and insights to go, this is what next best action would be, or what the insights are telling us, so we can sort of predict on their behalf. And that will continue to develop across app push and website push, and including that in the customer journey. So quite excited about that one. And then I guess the backbone of all this is having that strong analytics piece. So it needs to be across all of our sales channels. And we've been working with yourselves to go, how do we understand what the customers are doing and where they're going, especially with this new routing strategy. It's really core to get that right, so we can have that first response resolution, so we're not moving a customer around unnecessarily. And to do that, I think you need to be doing a lot of testing and really challenging ourselves on why and how a customer's contacting us and what they want from there. So I guess one of the biggest ones that we're just setting up at the minute is those 35,000 calls that are going direct to a store. We're going to challenge our thinking, go, in some of those cases, they actually don't want to speak to that local store. They potentially want to go to a specialized package team because they might have Googled holiday packages and their closest stores come up on the right, so they've just hit that button. So we're going to run across phones A/B test to sort of look at, hey, can we move the customer to a different place, and does that result in a better customer experience, a higher conversion rate, and a better cost of sale across the board? So that's probably really challenging our own previous thinking that consultant first. We really need to be customer first, and they'll tell us what's happening, and testing does that for us.
Cool. So that's quite trailblazing, obviously, and then to actually get that experience of what you're driving online, I suppose, to what's actually really happening offline when they pick up the phone, but actually collecting all that data and then personalizing it and testing it. So it's going to be a really good year going forward. So look forward to some of the results in there.
Definitely, and I think that attribution piece will come into that. We can do that from phone now if we're doing a match with what Delacon's provided us. We can actually go back. It's not real time yet, but we can actually go, these channels are doing this, and this is our average booking file and how much that cost us. So that's a really powerful tool. I think any marketer would tell you that attribution is the holy grail. And this is this is a first step or a couple of steps in that direction, which is amazing.
And you were actually talking about your customer segments and obviously looking at, ideas and thoughts on personalization around those customer segments going forward. So can you speak more to that?
Yeah, I think we've sort of laid it a couple of different ways, and we've never done it right. We're a mass marketer, and I think over the years about 20 million people have bought from us, and considering Australia's 24 million people, like over 40 years, that we've sort of touched everyone. So then to group them into core customer segments, to cast that net wide, but then also fish with that personalization really targeted. So we've broken it down into a couple of different levels. So you see that top line there. Are you a family, a small group, a solo, or a couple? And understanding some people, like myself, might go into two. I'll have a family holiday, but then I'll also travel by myself to go, how do we tag that in market? And then we'll put over their need state. So we've done a lot of work with McKinsey to go, these, we call them trendsetters. They're happy to do a lot of research on their own. They want to deal with us online. They potentially will come to a store just to get validation of what they're doing. But that's all they need us for. And we have another need state, that's advice takers. They want to come into store. They really want us to be planning that whole holiday for them. So we've sort of broken that down into a couple of different levels. And on top of that, they cater, and I sort of hate saying demographics is customer segment, but we haven't necessarily been that good at the younger market. So we pull out youth, and youth will lay over there. It's probably just a more core focus for us at the second, with channels we're selecting and how we're presenting ourselves from a branding point of view. And how do they want to deal with us? Our app's really sticky. We know if someone buys there, that they're 85% chance they're likely to come back there, and we think that's a great opportunity for that youth segment.
Awesome. You didn't put yourself into that bucket, Clinton.
No, thank you, Sandra, for pointing that out. No, I didn't.
Oh, very good. Okay, so a year on from, probably like one of the worst days that we've all experienced, what would you have done differently if you could go back 12 months ago?
I think from the start, I would have gone harder. What we're doing with this phone trial, I would have done more of them and faster. I think we didn't challenge ourselves potentially at the start as much as we could have. We were sort of like just make stuff happen. But I think if I would have had that time over, probably take a step back or 30 minutes to breathe and do a bit of that testing or setting up those testings for when it was the right time to push a little bit harder. So big believer, we went hard, but we could have gone harder.
And do you have like 3 learnings to share with all the marketers that are obviously listening today, like top 3 things that, obviously under adversity you can shine? What would your 3 things that you'd want to really share?
Analytics, probably number 1, needs to be making up more of your not paid for from the rest of the business. You need to be including that in your marketing budget. I think, I've gone from about 3 to 5% a couple of years ago, even before it was Flight Centre, to about 15, 20%. You need that. You need to be gathering all that data. Yes, you do need the insights of it, but it's extremely important to have that analytics layer across every channel that you can. Customer segmentation, it's the backbone of what we're doing. You can only create a great customer experience if you understand that customer's journey, where you're winning now and where you're failing, or where's your opportunity. And that's not just from a marketing point of view. I think that's the entire business, and the entire business can get on board of that. And it sort of lets you, which is my 3rd point, is using both of those points to be able to influence the business. I think any marketer, it is a skill to be able to talk to a CFO and go, I need this money. Not just for marketing, but for this tech, for this analytics, and you need to be able to talk in really financial terms. And if you're talking to product managers, you need to be able to talk to what does that mean for their tech stack, and what's a true MVP that still delivers on a customer experience look like. So analytics, customer segmentation, and know how to influence the business. Because if you can't influence the business, those first 2 don't really mean a lot.
Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Just to wrap up, I suppose, very, very important question. A lot of us are having massive travel withdrawals, except for Kate, who's obviously in holiday at Airbnb in her car somewhere. So what's the best travel tip at the moment from Flight Centre, and where should we go?
Okay, so I think because there's people from around the world, like there's nothing like a holiday in your own backyard. I think it's underrated, and if you're anything like a lot of Australians, we travel abroad first, so there's lots of great things to see that you can do here. So go support local. If you're in Australia, go to Tassie. It's amazing. I just come back from 2 weeks. I've never been there before in my life, which is sad to say. So do that. Or jump in a car, just drive. There's a lot of little places that need a lot of help at the minute. So go support local. Excellent.
Brilliant. I think we're probably ready for some questions. Let me just see if, okay, so we've got one here. Clinton, could you tell us more about your stack for managing personalization and the strategy around this with regard to multi-channels?
Yeah, good question. So personalization, we have a lot of different channels, and I think people get stuck in it's either website or email marketing automation platform. I actually think you can do some form of personalization across nearly any channel. So like I said, we have a bunch of stores with digital screens. So we're doing a lot of customer segmentation work for those shopping centers to go, this shopping center is more likely to have a family. And then we need to be able to generate that content, which might still be in the same, Tourism Australia campaign, but we need to be showing imagery and having content that speaks to that one. And I think doing that, understanding those customer segments and then looking at those individual channels does that. we're doing it now with our marketing automation platform. We are on Salesforce, so we keep developing that. We took on their GA360 connector a fair few years ago, and that's worked really well because it's allowed us in a really cost-effective way being able to personalize across the board. And with how the stack looks, website's got to be key at some stage. We're looking at a couple of different vendors, to be truthful, and how that goes, but I'm big on the moment of proof of concept. So I think we'll end up looking at 2 vendors and making them pitch and then do a proof of concept across both of them, because the proof's in the pudding at the end of the day. And I think if you do something and you go all in, especially with something so important, then potentially you're not setting yourself up for success. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, I think definitely. I don't know if there's any other questions popping on. Hey, Eileen. Can't hear you.
Sorry, Eileen, you're on mute.
You're on mute. We can't hear
Sorry.
you.
Sorry. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing those very good questions and very good insights on what you could do better. I think the audience really appreciate that. It's good to see how successful Flight Center have been to integrate call tracking together with your customers' experience journey. I'm sure you will actually see a lot of other solutions for the website, improving the CRO on the website side as well. Great. So now it's the time for the last panel discussions. So maybe we could hear from the next 2 panels. Thank you very much, CEO Pendra. Yes, the next panel will be from Linka, from Head of Digital Acquisition, RMIT Online, and Hearne from our Customer Success Manager from our partner, Telium. Let's invite them to come on stage.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
hey.
Hearne, over to you.
How are we doing?
Good, thanks, Hags. How are you?
Oh, always bubbly, always feeling good, Lynn, especially when I've got you on here. So I'm really excited to get things started. I guess, should we just dive in?
Go for it, mate.
Let's go. Look, you know what? Let me start by welcoming everyone. I think that's a start. I think my name is Hearne Gogabarkan. Many know me as Hacks, and I am the Customer Success Manager here at TDM. I'm joined, obviously, by Lynn. Lynn, do you want to do a quick intro on yourself first before we just dive in there?
Yeah, my name's Alinka. A lot of people call me Lynn. Hacks does anyway. Yeah, I have the pleasure of leading the digital acquisition group at RMIT Online. So we focus on customer experience, acquiring new students, and a lot of conversion rate optimization. I've got a lot of Cro being thrown around today, which is awesome.
Yeah, indeed, that's awesome. Lynn, look, thanks for joining me as well on the fireside chat today. We will discuss quite a hot topic, actually, what customers want, a striking, personalized experience. This has got to be, by far, one of the hottest topics around, in an area many, I guess, if not all organizations want to really get right? To stand out in a world where there's products and services everywhere, delivering experiences before the first purchase, and then again after, not only builds trust, but it also increases our chance to repeat business. It's what we live. It's what businesses live for. And to be successful, organizations consider change from within now, across people, product, technology first, in order to effectively and efficiently help the customer that sits outside of it, right? And as you start to lay the foundations of this new way of working internally, connecting with customer data together, then making sense of it, then acting on it becomes a possibility. It's like customer experience is actually an art. So an art that I know personally, firsthand, and yourself, RMIT Online is committed to master and well into their journey, right? So then, look, how does RMIT Online define personalization, or should I say personalized experiences for your audience?
Great question, Hacks. And I love that you said it's an art, but it's also backed by science. So I'm a scientist by trade. And here we are optimizing customer experiences. So for RMIT Online, the personalization really is about better understanding where a person is at in their journey. And that's, this is to give them the experience that will help them make a better decision, right? We're not there to make the decision for them. For our particular audience, they're working professionals. It takes them a long time to decide to study. Consideration cycle could be 6 to 12 months or even longer. So understanding what outcome they want from studying, where they're at in their decision making, it's just paramount for us to know how to best communicate with them. What do they want next? What decision do they need to make next? It is a long decision making. So our job really is to be there as a guide for them, to help them along their journey. But it requires us to do a lot of the listening. We listen to their behaviours. We see what they're doing on the website. We don't want to bias their experience with what we think's well. It's them telling us, where they're getting stuck. So it could be through the actions on their website. Could be an interaction I've had through the call centre. It's really them telling us where they're at in the journey and us trying to understand that through the data.
I love how you put that. It's like we are taking you along this journey with you. It's because sometimes you don't even know what the course you really want, right? You start somewhere and then you end somewhere completely different. You've got interests here and there, but the fact that you're listening and also guiding them along that journey is actually quite nice. And to know you've got a bit of support, we've got guidance from someone that knows. So, but then how and where did all this journey with personalization really begin for RMIT Online?
If you really want to know, that personalization journey was actually born out of sheer frustration. Like everyone probably faces, just data sits in silos, right? So to bring any personalization to life, we needed to define data attributes for our customers and then create data-driven segments on them. But with the way our systems were set up, we didn't even know if a person on our website was a student or a prospect. I had no clue. Wow. The data was sitting in silos. It makes it very difficult when you're trying to target people. In a typical e-commerce platform, you have a beautiful checkout funnel and you can tell by just someone's click actions that they've bought something. But that just didn't exist for me at Omnichannel. So I was super frustrated. I was like, I can't do my job right until I know this, right? And so our enrollment funnel, it went off into another system. It didn't loop back in nicely with our analytics. Our Google Analytics couldn't even tell me that we were getting conversions. And so, our personalization journey, it was started off with a very simple, almost crude use case, right? It's just identify students so we can stop showing ads to them. Nobody wants to see an ad after you've already bought something from a website. It's just a simple one, right? Let's just start with basics.
I like that.
So really what we had to do is just connect our offline student data into Tilium, and then we were able to create our two very first audiences, which were the most important ones. One we call the actively studying student, and the other one's a prospect. And the purpose was twofold. Don't annoy them with the ads. And the second is obviously you can save those marketing dollars and reinvest into more student acquisition.
Love that. And as you deliver more and derive more value from the small things, you then have the chance to go, hey, let's think about other things. But the point is you're delivering value over time. You're not waiting for the big bang 12 months from now. No, we're doing this right now, right? So it is really great to get the momentum going. And look, to even get that process started, who got involved on your side? Who did you have to mobilize to get such a journey off the ground? Because I think that's probably a theme that comes up in many of my conversations many times. So how did you do it?
Yeah, when you're starting from scratch, it can be hard, but it can be easy too because you've got green fields, So there was two parts to this, I think. The first one was just getting Tilium implemented. We really needed Tilium to help stitch our data. So we created a project team around that implementation of Tilium. It included IT, marketing, website, product managers. But even before the tool comes into play, right, the first order of the day is you have to upskill your team. So no one in the organisation had any experience with this technology. So, but yet, we've bought it, now we've got to do something with it. So get the team skilled up, and they're just such a wonderful bunch that even today I have people from the organisation tapping on the shoulder saying, can I do some Tilium training? Because they're hearing news about it. So,
everyone wants a piece of the action.
so that's, get the team skilled up. The next one was really, once that implementation was complete, we created the ongoing squad, and we call it the CRO squad. And that's why I said I love hearing that everyone's talking about CRO today. So it's a cross-functional squad, and we cast the net even wider. So we included CRM, student experience, the UX team, and the sales team. Just having sort of representatives that can vouch for every part of that journey is what's important. You need the voice of the customer in there. So the sales team is part of the squad. You need the voice of the student experience in there. So the student experience team, they're amazing, and they bring all the insights and the pain points. And these teams, they have their own tools and systems that they use to track where things could be going wrong in their journey. And they bring those insights to this squad, and we create, I guess, a backlog of work and priorities. We base it off of ROI. We run it like an agile squad, but really the backbone of the squad is measurement and testing. So we have clear conversion rate goals through the whole funnel. And, we also argue and have very passionate debates about what to do next, how to go about it. But when it's all said and done, these debates just form a fabulous A/B testing roadmap for us, and we're just guided by analytics and data.
I love the way you guys have done this, and I say it every single time, hence why you're a great example of a customer that's done this. Breaking down silos. Don't have your conversation in the corner yourself. Bring your requirements to us. Let's do this as a team. This cross-functional team is able to serve the needs of every single department and act as the center of excellence, right? So it's a new way of thinking, a new way of doing, and you guys are kind of on that journey, and that's what's quite beautiful to see. And so, okay, if I were to flip this on the other side now, no one knew COVID was going to come, right? Came like that. How has that actually impacted the journey? Because how has that made personalization and customer data even more important for RMIT Online now that everyone's kind of going more online?
Yeah, look, education, I think, like a lot of sectors, has been just radically disrupted by COVID-19. And we saw a really big shift to online learning during that time. So our enrollments increased by 36% last year.
Wow.
We had to. It's big growth for us that we didn't see coming, and we weren't really tasked. Our workforce wasn't ready for that, really. We had to launch 17 new courses, additional courses and degrees to help with that surge in demand, particularly in areas like e-commerce and digital health. But this growth, it really did pose its own challenges for us internally. We're used to having this really one-on-one, high-touch conversation with every single prospect that submits a lead on our website. We want to know where they're at in their journey, and we make an effort to call everybody to see if we can help them. But our leads doubled overnight. So, but our advisors, our sales team, they didn't double. We had the same amount of people. So it just really made us think about that consideration part of the journey. Like, how can we continue to provide a fabulous experience for our prospects without actually talking to them? And so we went back to that positive and negative, audience targeting train of thought, like with our suppressing ads to students. Like, well, we don't actually have to contact everybody, right? So how do we know who we do need to contact? And that's the tricky part. Yeah. So really, what this is bred now is we need to get our customer data in our CRM to be more real time. Like, nothing's ever 100% real time, but close to real time. So we kind of really know where a person is at in their journey while they're in the journey. We don't want to run a report in 6 months time or 6 weeks time and say, oh, where's the person now? We want to know within a few hours where they're at. So one of our use cases that we're working on right now, which was born out of the COVID era, is about enriching our customer data with our real-time website behavior. So we want to know when someone's come to the website, they submit an inquiry, and then if they return to the website, we want to actually update their data in our CRM with that information. If they're viewing pages like the FAQs page, or they're getting stuck somewhere in the funnel, we want our CRM to know that, because that's what the sales team use to action leads, right? And so they can take action and offer help without having to talk to everybody.
Absolutely, but then I think that I like the way you've started somewhere, right? And I think so. Then you kind of think about then what's next. Then like that's a start, right? So then where can you take personalization in 2021? And like, is there an initiative you can actually share with the viewers today?
Yeah, there's a couple of big initiatives. We're doing one, the website personalization initiative. I would love to actually be able to share results of this one with you today, but we've actually just launched our next personalization use case. It just went live and it's in A/B testing as we speak. And this one's actually about showing personalized messages on the website for returning users based on the pages they last viewed on the site. So one of the big challenges in education is like urgency. It's actually a big driver of action. And most education institutions might have a handful of intakes per year where you do your enrolments. But we actually have an intake every 2 weeks for different courses.
Wow.
So we can't just plaster one date on the website homepage and say, submit your application by this date. We actually have to tailor that message based on what course someone is interested in, because if you're interested in a course hacks, it might be different to the course I'm interested in. And my close enrollment date might be 4 weeks' time, yours might be 6 weeks' time.
That's it.
You don't want to know about my one, and I don't want to know about your one, right? So for us, it's actually understanding how can we show the right close of enrollment message to these prospects. So we've actually just implemented this through Tilium, and there's quite a complex decision tree that sits behind this. And so, yeah, this one's going to be pretty exciting. I wish I could share results today, but I will let you know hacks in about 3 weeks' time.
And I'm looking forward to it. And look, this has been awesome. Look, Lynn, you've covered quite a lot there. A lot of really, really, really good stuff. And we hope the discussion obviously is informative and is equipping the viewers and kind of a little bit extra to guide you on your own journeys. Like think about some of the themes, right? So you got aligning key stakeholders to the cause, collaboration internally, not being afraid to actually just give it a go. Think big, start small. Customer experience is kind of new to many and still is, and it's okay to learn as you go. And I think that's one of the biggest themes here. And I know that many customers, like RMIT Online, once found the journey quite intimidating to first start, and look at you now, right? Look at us now.
We're trying hacks. Yeah, I would still
Keep
say
on going.
that we're pretty, I guess the analogy is like you start as a baby and you're crawling and then you're walking and running. So I think we're going from that crawling to walk stage now, and hopefully be running soon.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, we'll be sprinting. Don't worry about that. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions here. Here we go. There's a question here. Actually, here. Well, I've got one here. How do you measure and evaluate your performance across channels? Like, like capturing data and how other tools from the stack benefited from Tilium. How'd you find that?
Yeah, so every stack has its own measurement, right? But I guess part of that CRO squad, we just have very clear conversion rate metrics through that funnel. So from the top, where you're looking at new user sessions to website conversion, and then converting that to a prospect lead, then from a lead to a student. Within that big funnel, we break down the micro funnels. So we look at every step where a prospect can fall out. On the data side with Tilium, we're now able to feed events out of Tilium into our analytics platform, and we're starting to work on stitching together that entire, web behavior with CRM data, knowing exactly what stage a lead is at, not just that someone submitted a lead, but the stages within that lead to sale, and that's now feeding back into our website, feeding back into our advertising platforms, just enriching that data.
Circulating constantly in between. Love that. So as data comes in, you enrich, you know about that customer, you send it out to the endpoints to activate. Then once you've activated, bring that data back in. It's like a constantly beautiful flow of data, constantly enriching itself continuously about that single view. Love that. I love that. And final question, promise. On a scale from 1 to 10, right? How would you say RMIT is kind of, where do you say you are in terms of delivering that striking experience for your customers or the students just right now?
But yeah, again, in my mind, I think we've just started. I almost would say we're one, it's hard to know because I don't really, compare myself to any other. I just look at us and I think we've got so much to do. So in my head, we're a one. But what's exciting is we have this insane roadmap of initiatives for the next 2 years that we want to test. And I'd like to say, ask me again in 2023 hacks, and I'd like to say that we're sitting at a 7 or an 8.
Love that.
All that every time.
It's a journey, and I love the fact that you're being realistic about it. The fact that you've even started the journey is a big one. Hats off to you and the team for involved in that. So that's perfect. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Linka. I think that's a very good examples that you gave there on combining your offline data with online data. And indeed, there's so much more we can do with using a CDP like Telium, doing more personalization and advancing in your journey. I'm sure you'll get better and better. Thank you. So we'll thanks, see y'all.
Thank you very much.
So really, that's a wrap for today's session. For everyone that actually joins our CX Masterclass, you realize that we actually do this CX Masterclass every half a year. So I will look forward to bringing you new partners and different sessions of technology partners in September this year. So on behalf of the ABTC team, a very big thank you to our partners and their respective clients for sharing their knowledge and experiences. A big thank you for everyone who joined us until the very last session here, and hope you all enjoyed the session. We'll be following up with a recording of the session shortly and the contact of all the partners. So feel free to reach out to all the partners or reach out to AB Tasty. That's all for us. See y'all again next time.